worldwide affairs have a place in your day, this is the place you will want to stay. The Ron Bobb-Semple International Podcast with your host, world-renowned voice of Garvey and global news commentator, Ron Bobb-Semple.
Greetings and welcome to the Ron Bobb-Semple International Podcast. We will be addressing global issues that impact our day-to-day lives.
So when the government to see what kind of people you get to work at NDC there, right? What kind of people, and we need here as villagers want these people to come because they don't vote, but don't vote to put them there. The overnight to see your next person there. And the people over there are them and their family there. And they had hundreds of duckies. Hundreds of duckies had he. We all there out. Where we gonna live? Where we gonna live? I can come pick for mine and make my wife for mine. I got pay bills. GPL not cut down for nothing, not cut down for no. What rates got pay? Light bill got to pay. Right? Internet I got pay. Where we gonna find the money pan? They say service are okay here. So that is the reason because they come. Mr. Hamagan all of them come here. That was Saturday. Right? Them come and they video and do everything. But I mean, I see on the news that they were showed 19 and 19 affected by anything. So that is the reason we calling from the higher authority now. If the president could see and come, you know. So this message will be sent here now, straight to the president now. Right. So let he see if he can assist me in this situation here now.
The masters of infrastructural defense against water, the Dutch, were the first colonizers of Guyana. The Dutch built a system of cocas, canals, and dikes, and a seawall. In 1616, the Dutch established the first European settlement in the area of Guyana, a trading post 25 kilometers upstream from the mouth of the Essequibo River. Other settlements followed, usually a few kilometers inland on the larger rivers. The initial purpose of the Dutch settlements was trade. In 1621, the government of the Netherlands gave the newly formed Dutch West India Company complete control over the trading post on the Essequibo. This Dutch commercial concern administered the colony known as Essequibo for more than 170 years. The company established a second colony on the Berbice River southeast of Essequibo in 1627. Although under the general jurisdiction of this private group, the settlement named Berbice was governed separately. Demerara, situated between Essequibo and Berbice, was settled in 1741 and emerged in 1773 as a separate colony under direct control of the Dutch West India Company. Almost all of the major colonizers of the time, the British, French, Portuguese, and the Dutch, settled in the Guyanas over time. However, it was the Dutch colonizers, through the Dutch West India Company, that developed the water defense system around the Demerara and Berbice rivers, the two main population centers of Georgetown and New Amsterdam, of which the British later became the primary beneficiary. Joining us from Melbourne, Florida, is Dr. Joan Liverpool, author and the CEO of DESKAN, Restoring Hope Incorporated, a company that strives to assist organizations to strengthen their capacity, to provide services, and to enhance the work environment with the objective of expanding the delivery of health education, health promotion, and harm reduction to at-risk groups. Increased rainfall in Linden, Region 10, which is the Upper Demerara-Berbice area, resulted in flooding of the central Mackenzie area and other areas prone to flooding. Joining us from the town of Linden in Guyana is engineer Samuel Wright, who, among many other responsibilities, has served as an environmental management consultant to the Regional Democratic Council of Region 10. Greetings and welcome, both of you, to the Ron Bobb-Semple International Podcast.
It is a pleasure.
It's good to be here, Ron. Thank you.
Thank you both. We're recording this chat on June 16th, discussing the incessant rainfall in Guyana that has caused major flooding in 90% of the 10 regions in this newly oil-producing South American nation. As a result of that statistic, I'd like to go to you first, Brother Sam Wright. Could you tell us the status of what has resulted from those severe rains and how our fellow Guyanese are coping with this situation, especially coming on the heels of the COVID-19 pandemic, not to say that it is behind us?
Well, the COVID pandemic really has changed a lot of things in Guyana, changed a lot of our behaviors, and challenged us a lot. And even in Linden, we're seeing like a spike in cases and deaths and so on. So COVID has really challenged us in many ways. The flooding is unprecedented. It's been raining since March. You were in Guyana not too long ago, and you've seen the amount of rain we've had. But the rain you've experienced has been going on since March. Now, we talk of May, June rain. This is like March, April, May, June, July, August rain. And no community with that intensity of rainfall can avoid the impacts we're seeing. So in a lot of ways, it's how do we respond to the impacts? This is a natural phenomenon. A dam wasn't broken. The seawalls wasn't broken. It's just the natural phenomenon of intensive rainfall over a long period in Guyana. So the response now is how do we get relief to people? How do we move people out of where they are? And I think we're seeing a very good effort of like our sister and her group, DESKAN, other NGOs, the government agencies. There's been a very good response. The needed response is an emergency response. It's a disaster. We must respond to the disaster. Now, the other things that we'll do in the long term is emergency response, emergency preparedness. We have to do that better.
Guyana is justifiably called the land of many waters because of the numerous rivers, creeks, and streams that flow throughout its length and across its breadth. In fact, the name Guyana means land of many waters in a native Amerindian language. Sam, you said that in Alaska and northern countries, they live with snow and have winter festivals. Could you expound on what you meant when you said that, quote, we still see the water as our enemy in Guyana, unquote?
Yes, I remember having that discussion, and that's a position I've been taking. Guyana is known as a land of many waters, and that describes the amount of water that's around that we have to deal with. There's another description that I like, I find more useful and empowering, is the land of the water people. That means we have more facility with water. We live with the water, we understand the water, we plan for the water, we almost become a partnership with the water. And there needs to be that transition. For example, most places you go in Guyana, you find that the houses, say along the rivers or along the canals, the houses turn away from the water. You have your back door or your backyard is in the water, but you don't face the water as in other places. So what we need to do is have a better understanding of water, a better facility with water, and I think that would enable us to deal with the water in a more cooperative way. Generally, the water flows to the Atlantic, and what happens is that the water has to get from the hills and from the mountains to the Atlantic. So we have to build structures that incorporate the needs of the water, because the water is a lot of water. I mean, we have 120 inches rain a year, but more than that. The creeks move at a tremendous pace. The rivers move with very strong currents. So in a way, the water can overpower us. So we have to find a different relationship with water. That's what I meant.
Dr. Liverpool, what does DESKAN mean, and why did you feel it was necessary to form such an organization back in 1989?
I'm happy that you are asking that question. DESKAN simply means that we can, and with the word desks mean destiny, means that anything that we would like to do and we put our mind to, that we can do that. And can means if we apply ourselves, we can acquire our destiny. In 1989, my daughter, who was born in Harlem, New York, encountered cancer. And her daughter was born 4 months premature. And at such time, we decided that all was not lost, even though the doctor said she would not have made it. And so with prayers and faith, we today have a 20-year-old grandchild, our first granddaughter. So that's the meaning of DESKAN.
And the reason you felt that it was necessary for you to form this organization?
It's necessary because we have to give back. We have to learn how to take what is given to us and utilize it so that others can benefit from the gifts that we receive. And she was a gift to us. And as we continue the journeys today, and I like to use the word journeys because that's what our life is. And so that's one of the reasons why we continue to give back. And DESKAN was formed in such a way to be able to harness whatever we reap along with whatever we are given to make a difference in the lives of others.
What are your concerns or some of your concerns about the flooding that has been going on in the land of your birth?
While I was born in Guyana, I left Guyana shortly before it was British Guyana. And I echo with some concern the statement that our colleague just shared, says that we have to be able to bond with water. Yes, I remember the days when we had rain. Yes, I remember the days when there was flooding, but not the amount of water that we are currently seeing harboring in the land of my birth. In 2005, we encountered the similar situation that we are currently in, and we were in Guyana 3 days after the 2005 flooding. It was of great concern at that time because then we had several other issues to face with. But as a person in the healthcare arena, prevention and intervention, it's a costly, for lack of a better words, is a costly method if we don't apply it instantly or with given time. And so when we're dealing with the flood that we are seeing right now, where roads have been severed, bridges has been moved away, you're dealing with putting your child to bed at night, and instead of going in the crib to lay your child, you are dealing with a snake. You cannot find food. Yesterday, I was told that one pack of shallot, it's $1,000 Guyana dollars. I'm still dealing with Guyana money, so please forgive me. And the flood just occurred, meaning that we're looking at maybe within the last 3 weeks, when a cucumber is $300, when a bag of rice is 10,000 Guyana dollars. Guyana is seen on the world hemisphere as one of the poorest nations. Haiti is above us, and I've been to Haiti during the hurricane. Why is it that we cannot apply ourselves in an instance like this and do something better? Yes, we know that the drainage system is bad, but I recall 5 years ago leaving America and going to help clean the drainage in Albert Street, in Campbellville. We have to do better. What is it that we're doing in 2021 that is keeping us from not moving forward? So I am concerned as to what it is that we can do as a nation, as a family, as children of Guyana to make it better. Yes, we all can go to Guyana. We can send the barrels. We can send all of these antibiotic, antifungal cream. We can send nets. We can deal with mosquitoes. Something has to be given. Do we need a committee that just study the floods, the water? Do we need to utilize different strategies? Do we need to have the Dutch to come back in? We need to begin to revisit some of these things that have occurred that is preventing us each time. We know that there are rainy seasons in Guyana. We know that these things are going to happen. So what are we waiting for?
The incessant rainfall this year began as early as March.
That's correct.
Sam, I mentioned at the top of the broadcast that the Dutch built a system of cocas, canals, dikes, and a seawall. They also built gutters, out of which I, as a little boy, used to catch cockabelly fish and tadpoles. The filling up of these canals, dikes, and gutters has contributed to the flooding in the past, especially in Georgetown. I know you were born and raised in Linden.
Yes.
How would you react or respond to that being a contributing factor to some of the flooding that is being experienced? Why has this been ignored?
It's not been ignored. Georgetown is growing very fast. Even what you had in 1995, the infrastructure that you needed compared to what's there now, the town has grown. In a lot of ways, we have not planned for the growth of Georgetown. So the infrastructure that exists is for another time. So we needed to improve the infrastructure, the internal workings, even the emergency preparedness. Those things are lagging. For example, in Linden, the amount of rain that's been falling, there's no way we could have avoided the flooding. We could have cleaned all the drains, had all the efficient systems in place. It's just too much water. So what we need in a case like this is the ability to respond, to deal with the situation when it occurs. And I think that has been lacking.
When I used the word ignored, Sam, I was referring to the fact that ignoring what the Dutch did back there in the 1600s in providing these gutters, like the East Street Canal, that was all covered up. That used to alleviate the water. But now, I guess with the whole climate change, now there's been this preponderance of rainfall that has increased considerably. And as you just mentioned, with the amount of rainfall that Linden is getting, those gutters and drains might not have alleviated what's happening.
One of the things is, I think, is an overall understanding, or as I said, facility with water. I've heard, for example, on the social media, where Guyanese are saying all of Guyana is below sea level. This is not true. This is absolutely not true. With that statement, you don't make provisions for, Montgomery is in Guyana, that's not below the sea level. Wiz Rock in Linden is not below the sea level. So in a lot of ways, Camarang and other places not below sea level. So we need a better understanding of the geography and the water situation in Guyana. I think part of that ignorance is preventing us from responding or even demanding from our government a better response to the situation. And even our own behaviors that we do.
Also the ignorance of the history of our country. Dr. Liverpool, you have been leading volunteer-supported medical and educational missions to Guyana for over a decade. Guyana Medical Relief has supported these missions since 2005, which are focused on conducting free medical clinics in various villages around Guyana. Yes. What health issues are arising from this widespread flooding being experienced in Guyana as we speak?
There are several health issues that results from the flooding, the current flooding right now. And I will focus on the infectious diseases that is very visible in this situation. We're looking at dengue, we're looking at dermatitis, we're looking at itches, we're looking at diarrhea, we're looking at maternal deaths, we're looking at, and I can go on because of the flooding, the current situation that can result in these health issues. Cardiac deaths can result from them, kidney issues, kidney failures, so we want to be able to begin to address those issues early on.
How has your organization, DESKAN, been instrumental in getting much needed supplies down to Guyana to those in need, especially in the interior sections of the country?
DESKAN Restoring Hope has partnered with several agencies and other organizations of like minds that are currently, as we speak, in Guyana. There are coordinators in Linden currently, in Kwakwani currently, that are also partnering with us. We have partnered with the neighborhood councils in Linden, and we have partnered with the neighborhood councils in Kwakwani. We also have a local chapter of DESKAN in Guyana coming out of Sophia, coming out of Plaisance, coming out of Georgetown. There are three coordinators there. And one of the things, along with other organizations that we've partnered with, one of the things that we do here in the United States and have been in a very long time is partner with other organizations of like minds, of said mission goals and objectives, to get the much needed supplies to Guyana and making sure that they effectively distributed to the much needed people in Guyana, utilizing those partners that we currently have in Guyana to do so. We have also worked very closely with the government of Guyana pre-2005 and this 2021. Even though we are present in America, we are pretty much very present in Guyana.
What kind of challenges have you been faced with?
Those challenges are several. One of those are, of course, financial. And the others is to understand that we would like to help our brothers and sisters wholeheartedly in Guyana and should be given the opportunity to be of such and not be called foreigners or not feel as though we are not part of Guyana. As I've been working in Guyana more than 20 years plus, I'm still called foreigner. So to me, that's a challenge. My brother is laughing. To me, that's a challenge because when I pick up the phone and I call from Melbourne, Florida to Guyana, I greet my brothers and sisters in Guyana, Berbice, Linden, Georgetown, Parika, Essequibo. I greet them wholeheartedly and not to be treated as a foreigner. And so I let them know that all the time. The other challenge is financial opportunity. Yes, we can partner, but to mail a barrel with all of these items and to make sure that it gets from Georgetown to Linden is very costly. And if I say to my colleagues or I say to my friends in Linden, this is something that all of us would benefit from, it's really something that sometimes get on my nerves.
You have to be commended, Dr. Liverpool, what you and your associates have been doing over the last 20 years. You're getting needed supplies down to Guyana, not just when there's an excessive rainfall season. As the local consultant for Guyana Water Incorporated, Sam Wright, you have been integrally involved in the rehabilitation of the West Watuka treatment plant, the installation of new distribution systems in Block 22, Rock and Blueberry Hill, and with the establishment of the Dakura Creek Watershed Management Plan. Why have these many decades gone by and measures still not appear to have been put in place to alleviate the flooding problems?
I always state that Guyana is a country or a community in ascendancy. We're still a very young country, and it seems as if the things that we learned when we attained independence initially was just continuation of what was going on before. The political struggles in Guyana, the separations that we have had, has prevented us from really maximizing the resources, the intelligence, capability, the gene pool that is Guyana. We have the technical ability, we have the interest, but I think how we are organized as a community, as a country at this point prevents us from using the best of our abilities to solve our problems. But again, as Guyana is evolving and maturing, we're seeing bigger problems. There are more cars on the road. People want more things. People are moving away from the villages and going into town. So I don't know if our planning we have a kind of visionary projection that's required to deal with some of the problems that are coming. The amount of water, as land of many waters, the amount of water that comes through Guyana. The folks in Kokwani said today, when they're interviewed, this flooding is unprecedented, but annually we have problems with flooding during the May-June season. Water has a certain kinds of behavior. It runs in a certain way along a river, it goes over to the riverbed, floods the river basins. So therefore, should we be putting health centers, important infrastructures within the floodplains? If it's going to flood on a pretty regular basis, probably we need to have a different idea of how we build our buildings, how we build our infrastructure. For example, we build water treatment plants. Now, if the water rises 4 or 5 feet, a lot of the machinery is now underwater. So those structures will not be able to operate in a way. So we really need to have to plan more for the possibilities, the reality of water, the behavior of water. We have to monitor more. Like, for example, how much rain has fallen in Berbice? How much rain has fallen in Linden? How much rain is falling in Cameron? What we should have been doing, and I think to a certain extent we are doing, is monitoring these and planning. For example, if you have more than a certain amount of rain within the Berbice River on high tide, you should be able to predict what the flooding is going to be. We're learning that the hydromet, the lands and survey and various, we're beginning to look at this as we need a more of a uniformed approach to solving a problem. There's still issues where government departments don't really work well with each other in a way as they should. So I think it's more of we're a growing country, but we're not using our resources or people. We don't have the kind of visionary planning and projections that are required. But also, maybe we didn't have the resources before. I think the worst is yet to come. I want to be able to say that, because if the farms are destroyed, if the animals, cattle are being destroyed in large parts of Guyana, food prices are going to go up and the farmers will not get paid for their products. So the worst is still to come. And probably what we're trying to do, and I think the government is trying very hard to come up with a unified, concerted approach to solving these problems.
One of the major effects of climate change is rising sea levels. Guyana's coastal plain is 6 feet below sea level. This is having a devastating effect on the people, as about 90% of the country's population resides on the coastal plain. Should consideration be given to moving the capital, Georgetown, to higher ground, Dr. Liverpool?
I beg to yield that question to Brother Sam there, because I remember 20 or 30 years ago, this very question was asked, whether Georgetown should not be the capital. And there was quite a number of discussion whether the capital of Georgetown should be moved to Buxton. So I'm going to yield that question because I never got a clear answer.
Brother Sam, the ball is in your court.
I think what we have to do is de-emphasize Georgetown.
Interesting. Explain that, please.
Because right now, most of the government agencies, most of the ministries, most of the more important things are in Georgetown. That came from geography, that came from historical developments and so on. We're hearing talk starting a city on the Linden Highway. Those are the kind of discussions we have to start having, because with the amount of flooding, Georgetown doesn't have much room to expand. So in a lot of ways, in addition to the flooding, just physically, we can't do much more with Georgetown than it is. It can remain a cultural center. Some things can remain there. But for improvements of Guyana, use of our resources, Georgetown doesn't produce much. And we don't really need, while we have a port in Georgetown, most of the products we produce in Guyana are produced in the interior and in other places. So we can de-emphasize Georgetown and build our other important infrastructures away from Georgetown. And maybe with time we shift to capital from Georgetown. But remember, we also have, when Georgetown was founded, we didn't have the kind of communications we have now. We're having this Zoom meeting, we're in 3 different places. It's not necessary for us to meet all the time that we meet. So even how we do business has changed. So we don't need as such as a capital, because the communication is what we need: information, sharing of information, be able to communicate in effective ways. So the whole idea, the old idea of a capital city, we have to re-envision that.
How can one get a copy of the Best of Linden magazine and also get the opportunity to experience the Hyacinth Bed and Breakfast?
Thank you so much. The Best of Linden magazine can be had at Austin's bookstore in Georgetown. It could also be had at Linden Funds Trust office on 94 Manning Street, Linden, 444-6350. But also from overseas, you can order the magazines through our links on our Facebook page with Linden Fund Trust, which is an organization that's producing the magazine, and of which I'm a trustee, and also the Best of Linden magazine Facebook page that will allow you to order the magazine. And Hyacinth Bed and Breakfast, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's the best bed and breakfast in Linden. And I think you can be had on our Facebook page. We are shown on Airbnb, and we can be reached again at the same numbers, 592-444-6350, and we'd love to host you.
I thank you. Should one have need to contact DESKAN, how can one do that, Dr. Liverpool?
They can reach us at 770-256-0356 or 404-234-2702, or they can go on our website, which is www.deskanrhtc.net. I thank you so much.
Dr. Joan Liverpool, CEO of DESKAN, and the motto of which is homelessness is not a choice, help is. And Samuel Wright, who many feel should be running for mayor of Linden. Thank you both for joining me on the Ron Bobb-Semple International Podcast to discuss the flooding situation in Guyana. President Dr. Irfan Ali announced that the Civil Defense Commission has advised that the flood situation across the country is now a level 2 disaster.
Yes.
Much appreciation to both of you.
Thank you so much for having offered us this opportunity, and we truly, truly appreciate it.
Thank you for spending some time with us. If you are so inclined, you can subscribe to these podcasts and donate to them by clicking on the Support the Show button on the website. Please continue to protect yourself and your loved ones during this global pandemic by observing all protocols. Be safe, be strong, and be aware. I'm Ron Bobb-Semple.